I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is day 2 of the quarterfinals of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League. It is a rather spontaneous stream because we have not just one match remaining, we have only half a match remaining that we're about to watch, and the story is as follows. So Germany's yzemaze, who is also known with his screen name yzemaze or yzemaze, if you want to pronounce it in a more German way, was scheduled to play against Ilya Slonimsky, who is currently resided in Israel, at 6:30 in the morning today, and it's not something that I was able to stomach, given the fact that I had myself a quarterfinal match of the CCL today that I needed to play. But interestingly, they only started the match early, but they were not able to finish it in full due to some personal reasons, and part of the match got rescheduled to today in about 2 minutes. In exactly 2 minutes, I hope. And I wasn't planning to stream that either, but I was playing in the other quarterfinal earlier today, as you can maybe see on the screen, against Japan's Rabbit Rain, and it was such an exciting match that just got me so excited about Carcassonne in general, so that I really feel like talking about Carcassonne today. And the fact that we still have this one piece of Carcassonne Champions League match left to watch would be very nice fuel for my addiction. Hopefully you are as hungry for viewing the match as I am for commentating it. Now, yzemaze is already ahead 2-1 as a result of his morning effort. The whole series is a best-of-5 series, something that actually I forgot until yesterday. But yes, the playoffs are designed in such a way to minimize the luck factor, making it even more likely for the stronger side to win. And as you can see, yzemaze is 1 game away from winning that match. And I would have to say that when it comes to Carcassonne overall level, the German here has to be a big favorite. yzemaze is a master, isloun is an expert, and generally a wealth of experience from the German. Even though isloun has played nearly 5,000 games, yzemaze has played... Okay, so they only have played 1,500 games on this platform, but this is actually not true. They've played a lot of games on other platforms, just generally have deep knowledge about this game. But I really don't want to be calling it too early, because isloun had been the underdog in many matches, but there's something about them playing tournaments that they just managed to pull themselves together and win regardless. Especially spectacular was their win in the group stage against current world number 3 Bogdan Kurkan. So even though I still expect yzemaze to ultimately prevail, let's see if Ilya can put a little bit of a fight here. The table has already been created. Ilya, if he's not going to win this match, at the very least is going to win the prize for the best avatar. For those of you who don't know, it's a pun on his last name. So in Russian, slon is elephant, and his last name is Slonimsky. Even though the last name Slonimsky has nothing to do with the word slon, with the word elephant, it actually comes from the city of Slonim. But it's still fun to put an elephant in one's avatar, just because of that. Wait, I lost the players. Well, yeah, the winner of this match has actually an unenviable fate of having to face the reigning champion of the Carcassonne Champions League, someone you know, or Vladimir Kovalev in the semifinals. But still, of course, both players will be trying to win, and the German with the yellow meeples has the starting player advantage yet again. Isloun starts a new city himself, and Okay, this is something also from the play with the black meeples. Yeah, maybe whichever personal reasons that they needed to postpone the match for are still not exactly helping them, because starting the game with a mistake on the first move, it's one way to start the game. So this move over here, of course, the city cap had to be restricted, and actually black doesn't end up suffering too much for it, but it doesn't matter. We're now moving on, as a black Israeli meeple has been placed on a farm. Both players have started to clean off city caps and prepare 8-point cities. yzemaze already has 8 points on the scoreboard. This could end up being a really short stream, because the position of yellow is pretty good already. Now that both city caps have been occupied, the farmer of black looks way less enthusiastic. A little bit of an imprecision by black. Actually, a massive mistake by black. What is happening to Ilya today? I really hope that they're okay. I really hope that whichever things are going on in their life do not affect them too much, because you cannot possibly explain this move. This move is well, it doesn't do anything bad, right? It does give extra 2 points, but the problem with this move is that it's neither this, which would tie the two cities together, nor this, which would restrict yzemaze city. So really a lot of mistakes come from black here. But if you remember everything from the video, which actually I have made but not published yet, well, maybe if you're watching this in the recording, I will have already published the second half of the Mind Sports Olympiad recap, and as you'll see in one of the games, mistakes in Carcassonne aren't everything. You can still make a couple of mistakes in the opening, and then maybe your opponent gets complacent, and then you can still win. So now players exchange natural moves. Hi Napalmai, hi Ian, thank you for the congratulations. I'm feeling a lot of positive emotions as a result of my win earlier today. I'm gonna spoil the result to you. I mean, you saw it on the screen. I did win against Rabbit Rain 3-2, and the finish of that match required a bit of an endgame puzzle, although there are mistakes from both sides. You can see how yzemaze is already finishing the farmer at the top, finishing the city at the top, dropping a farmer, is now 14 points ahead on the scoreboard. And all because this Dorito tile was not used by black to equalize the city. So very often what you're going to see if an expert is playing against a master is it's just going to be the master exploiting the expert's mistakes. And I don't really think yzemaze is going to need to do anything special. But still, isloun is fighting, right? isloun is fighting, and they have an exciting road building project. Here, and what a move by yzemaze preventing all that. That is actually an incredible find by the German. So he sacrifices a point, but he makes the road of isloun so awkward to build. Moreover, he's threatening to draw a city cap or a Dorito tile and go over here and permanently block this square. This is just beautiful. So the only way isloun can save his road is by going here with a curve and then trying to finish it with a curve plus triple crossroads combo, or what's more spectacular, a road monastery plus curve, and then he's right back in this game. yzemaze on the road gets a very nice tile to finish his city and augment his scoreboard leads. Also try pressuring this road from both sides. isloun catches up on the scoreboard. I also actually wanted to point out that there's another pattern of completing this road. You can go for the road monastery here and for the field monastery here. So you could even get, like, wait, so 18 points for the monasteries plus 8 points for the roads. You could get like 25, 26 points from that sequence. if you get the tiles right. All right, isloun now needs to make some decisions. This one's really not easy. This is where the play with the black meeple should really be burning his time. I'm just going to point out some candidate moves. So there's this, simply separating yellow's road from black. But at this score, I really don't like giving yellow a meeple back. I just really don't like that. So it's not so strong. Option 2, we go over here. Option 3, we... Well, I mean, it's an okay move, but at the very least, Ilya could have let me finish all the options before choosing one, which also happens to be not the best option, really. But that's okay. You know what? Yzemaze with the 7-point monastery, just excellent move here, not allowing isloun to draw a monastery. Isloun can still get the road monastery, of course, but yellow will get compensation from the monastery regardless. And we might actually achieve the record. We might actually achieve the shortest stream that we have ever had on this channel. The German is known for playing quickly. Now, I expect isloun to start burning a bit more of his clock. When he gets a more difficult position. And this is exactly what happens now. So the move here is clear as per the positioning. His monastery is now going to be blocked, and so he goes over here. But do you spend the last meeple there on invasion? And he decides that he does not want to spend the last meeple, but this is why yzemaze is going to go over here. No, he's not. Interesting. So one move that I was not able to predict from the German. I guess the reason why yellow did not want to put a second meeple into the city was because there's still a chance of this square getting blocked, in which case black is going to get himself like 5, 6, 7 points with just one blocked meeple, and yellow is going to have the same number of points but with 2 blocked meepled. And it is just a scenario that the German wanted to avoid. But I wonder if playing cautiously is going to backfire or not, because we see that isloun just unified the 2 cities. And it looked like a harmless move, but in reality is setting up a high-impact tile. There's still 1 splitter remaining in the deck, which black can use to go over here, finish his monastery, and meeple this city piece, trying to connect to the city with a second meeple using a Dorito tile like this, which would already be gaining him 16 points at the very least, and possibly even some chances of completing a game-winning city. So I really like this from black, in a difficult position at the very least, to try and set up some game-winning opportunities. Quick points for black on the left. City cap tile for eyes. What he's gonna do? Maybe just starting a city at the top makes sense. Or maybe on the right, pressuring that shared city a little bit. Or maybe here, also exerting some pressure on this square. So if you do start a city over here, which is probably my favorite move, unless the German sees something better, the point of that move is to either get a Dorito plus Dorito sequence, in which case yellow would get the majority on this huge city, or at the very least force isloun, who already is starving for scoring tiles, to spend a tile on a shared feature like this, simply to deny yellow this invasion opportunity. So the point of that move is creating a threat. And there we go! Isloun gets himself the splitter, and now it is a game. yzemaze just starts a city in a normal location without creating any additional threats, and he now gets the road monastery, which is fantastic for him, but isloun gets another meeple, and now has a clear path to victory. We're now equal on the scoreboard. These monasteries, of course, are going to be ginormous. They will score 18 points for yellow, but black is going to get those 18 points right back, and then that's it. We just go here, here, here. We try and build up the cities, and we hope that we do that before yellow gets a meeple back from the monastery, so that yellow is not able to reinvade the city. Still, overall, yellow is the favorite here, but black has now a clear path to win. Still 6 curves remaining here to recover a maple from the monastery. Black decides to go for a 9-point farmer, which makes all the sense in the world, and immediately a curve is drawn, which gives the German 2 meeples back. But a lovely dagger tile for isloun, who manages to score 7 points, 4 for the city, 3 for the field. The field is now worth 12 points, but Eyes immediately is going to go on the right and invade that field. He could also go over here, but this on the right is the better invasion platform for a variety of reasons. Well, actually, the reasons are is that there are more tiles which facilitate that invasion available in the deck. But regardless whether you're going to draw the farmer at the bottom or on the right, yellow should be invading into the field. You can also be flashy here, drop a farmer like this. This, of course, would be bad, because this connection would be blockable, but it just looks prettier. So maybe if yellow feels the need to artificially prolong this match, he could go here. Yellow's thinking now with a curve. We're going to see a field invasion, undoubtedly, I was gonna say. Instead, he goes for a move which creates an attacking platform against the city. And it makes sense. I don't like playing moves like these in the lead, because isloun could, in theory, get himself the Dorito immediately on the next move. And then all this move did was just waste a couple of tiles. And case in point, this is exactly what happened. So isloun just gets the Dorito, and yzemaze wasted 2 tiles. He could have had 2 quick points. He could have had a farmer or something. So maybe a bit of a panicky move here from the German. I don't know. What's that about? Because suddenly, yellow is not even ahead anymore. Now, yellow's ahead on meeples. But let's say yellow equalizes this field. It's going to cost him a meeple. Then this city here is worth 16, right? It's worth 16. It's worth 15, but it's going to be worth more. So then both players are going to be equal. yzemaze is still ahead, because he's the favorite to get the meeple back from here. Speaking of that, actually not the worst move for black is to go here or here and start harassing that little guy. And from black's perspective, we have to hope one thing. So either somehow yellow does not invade the field, and there are ways of preventing yellow from invading the field. Or maybe we block this meeple, in which case we're equal. Or maybe yellow starts wasting more tiles trying to create an attacking platform against our city. Or maybe we just complete the city, in which case it doesn't matter at all what is happening in other parts of the board, then we just win. Now, if isloun wants to try and secure himself the field, the move to go is probably here. This would eliminate the most potent field connection platform. It would also make it impossible for yellow to go over here and try to take over this road, which is also a possibility given the fact that there's still 2 straight lines available. One side could go here and drop a farmer. Yeah, there we go, there we go. That's actually very smart from black. So he eliminated 1 connection platform. And now there's only 1 connection platform remaining. And so with any curve, with any monastery, black can exploit the field geometry here and go over here. So yellow decides that invading the farmer is not important at the moment, is that getting a city meeple back is not important at the moment. He can do this later. It's just important to prevent the disaster scenario being a completed city of isloun. But I wonder if he's going to suffer a little bit more in the process, because what isloun could do now, he could just simply go over here, and then he could still draw technically a Dorito plus city cap combo, which would make him finish the city eventually. So probably as eyes, what I would have done I would have, as surprising as it may sound, actually ignored that threat of the city for as long as possible. Because if you just leave this alone, then if black goes over here, black's gonna give us back a good connection platform. Or, like, regardless of how black builds up the city, black is going to give back a connection platform, a reliable connection platform at some point, and then we pounce. But by forcing the issue a little bit too early, and that was not necessarily a bad move or anything, but I think it was a tad too early, then there is a more serious threat of that city being completed. That said, there's still a Dorito plus Dorito combo available for yellow to even connect to the city. We also see now a mistake from black. It's an understandable mistake, of course, but a mistake nonetheless. Now, black just finishes a shared road and gives both sides a meeple back, and that is his way of dealing with the meeple disadvantage, because now the meeple disadvantage is not 1 against 2, it's 2 against 3, which is more manageable. But stronger from black's perspective was actually going over here and eliminating the field's connection platform. Because if you just go here with any curve, then this 12-point field is all but sealed. There are only marginal connection platforms available, and those are not something that yellow is going to use, in all likelihood, being the side with the lead. Isloun decides to cover up his city from invasion, which makes sense. It's going to cost him a couple of points. And there's actually still a couple of tiles that fit into this square, and by a couple, I mean 2 exactly. So the threat suddenly grows and grows and grows and grows. Again, city cap plus triple city. It's not likely, but it is possible. But from Isa's perspective, I wonder if this completed city is the only way you can even lose. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. Only 1 tile away from city completion is the play with the black meeples. Now, of course, yellow has the chance, and not only the chance, yellow has the necessity to go over here, finish the city for 4 points, and block the city entirely. But this is not a bad outcome for black necessarily, because the city is going to be scoring a lot of points. Now, the problem for black is that it's not going to be scoring enough points. And here's the problem is, if only black were to go here with the curve a bit earlier, then this invasion would not have been possible. The city in and of itself is not actually enough to compensate the lead on the scoreboard that the German has, but the city plus the field, then that would have been enough. That said, yellow has not connected yet, and Isloun can still do something in this position. Maybe he can go here, start a new city, then threaten the completion of the city with another farmer. Maybe he can go here, although that would be bad. But we need to start counting tiles here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's still 3 curves available, so a lot of tiles that fit into either of these squares. So from black perspective, we should be thinking that yellow will be invading this field eventually. How do we deal with this? Do we just go and score at the top, or score here, try to get a 6-point city? Or do we get earlier on this 6-point farm? And also, if we do, then there are actually some outside chances of building like this, and believe it or not, connecting this 6-point farm with the main field. And definitely we want to be taking any outside chances we can get. $19 points is the value of the ruin. Isloun chooses to try and start blocking the field. That makes sense. I'm not sure if that's the strongest move, but it is a move that makes sense, and it works actually immediately, because yzemaze gets a monastery, and he would have used the monastery over here for 6 points and the field connection, but now he can't. So the strongest move that I see now here for the German master is to go and just take out that 6-point field and still have the chance of connecting all the way over there. You can also go for the 6-point monastery, but there's really no incentive for yellow to connect the top yellow farmer with the bottom black farmer, because both of them are worth 6 points, and those meeples are already tied in that way. So let's see what the German master does here. I'm pretty sure that the farming move is the way to go. But if he chooses the monastery, I really can't blame him, because they're great options for further development of said monastery. Also, you know what? I think the way black wins this, and this is what our neutral fans are... And this is what our neutral fans have to want, because if isloun doesn't win, then the match is going to be over right now. Interesting, he doesn't do anything. Hey, wait a minute. Okay, I see the point. The point is that he's trying to protect this square a little bit, and he's trying to prevent isloun from putting something into the square that would restrict this connection. Because you see, the German player is anticipating that black's going to go over here, which he will, and block this square. Because we're running very short on daggers. In fact, there are no daggers. No. The block is great. The block is lovely. The meeple here, really at this stage of the game, that's what you want to do? I mean, it's actually not that bad, but this guy is so likely to stay at 3 points, because this invasion is a bit hard. Now there's only one tile remaining that fits into this square. So actually, now I can see a path for victory to isloun, but it's really not the easiest path. So he needs to go here, of course, and find the tile that goes there. He also needs to get the last remaining, how do you call it, vanilla city cap. And the point is, we go over here and score 4 points, which is net 1 point because we're giving our opponent 3 points for the farmer. But we also block this square, or we restrict it towards a vanilla city cap, whilst the vanilla city caps would not be existent in this scenario. So then it's actually possible. Also, one that I think about this move, actually I don't hate it. I think it makes a lot of sense, because black is behind. Black needs to, have himself some chances, and he gets the tile that he needs. Suddenly this meeple scores really well with 8 points, which is, as great as you're going to do in the end game. And the point of this move was also not to let yzemaze go here and invade the city himself. Yeah, that's actually really nice. So I told you at the start of the stream that the Israeli has a way of pulling himself together for tournaments, and I think this is what we're witnessing right now. But it's also the case that for different players, different stages of the game are their strengths. So this is the end game, which is playing really, really well. I actually overlooked this blocking sequence here myself. Of course, the opening sequences got him into a difficult position in the first place, but he did a great job trying to climb out. Now a curved tile, which is very difficult to use in this position. I can only see moves with marginal value, maybe going here, restricting Iz's monastery a little bit. But ultimately, it's all going to come down to this square. And from black's perspective, what we should be thinking here, let's say if yellow does successfully connect, does black have a chances to win afterwards? And I really want to believe that this is the case. So what I would do if I were black, I would try and set up some sort of field re-invasion option, but black instead finds another very strong move. He simply goes for scoring. Actually, it's really good. Look at this. It's a 5-point road. And there are 2 tiles that can give him a meeple back. One of them just drawn by yzemaze, that would fit lovely over here, and the other one is the infamous Road Monastery. So that is actually a clutch find here. So the remaining tiles are Road Monastery, then we have 2 Doritos, and a city cap from Iza's perspective. A Dorito or a city cap give 9 points instantly for Iz as a result of this connection. Yeah, what do you even do? Just take quick points somewhere? I guess that's the best that I can see. Where exactly, though? Maybe it doesn't even matter that much. Maybe, you know what, maybe here. Oh, that's a great find. I'm going to explain you the point in a second. Basically, if this invasion gets blocked, then this is setting up an invasion through the monastery. Okay, isloun gets himself the blocking tile. He will be conceding 3 points. But he has to do this, because if he doesn't do this, then I's just going to invade with a Dorito. So the remaining tiles are 2 Doritos and a Road Monastery. And this move would sacrifice 3 points because it would finish a city in Iza's field. But it would make sure that he does not lose 9 points. And Iz gets a Road Monastery, which of course is a fantastic tile for him. He cannot invade the field, but he can score really well. The last Dorito of the game belongs to Ilya, and the shielded Dorito is drawn by Iz. I believe that it still should be enough for the German master. Because the monasteries seem to be scoring a lot, although the farms will be belonging to black. But in fact, black only... Actually, black does not have any extra field points because Iz has 2 fields. Oh, you can't make this one up. Will you look at that? Oh, no, never mind. It's 111. Yeah, I forgot about his other field. So the German master still prevails, still excellent effort on the part of Ilya. Some speed bumps along the way. Definitely this city must have made the German panic, but overall, the stronger player wins here in this game and in this match. If you want to check out the previous game, then you can check Nalaheim's stream on his channel. He was the one who heroically did wake up at 6:30 a.m. in order to stream the first part of their encounter. Hi, Elena. Elena is asking, are you going to review and comment your own match? Ooh, this is tempting. If we're gonna get 3 comments that this is something that's interests you, I can do it right now, basically. But I wasn't planning to make any separate videos about this, actually. Also because on Nalaheim's stream, he really covered the match quite in length live. So you can also watch that. But in case you're interested in some analysis of key moments, we can do this as well. But first of all, we need to congratulate the German master, Matthias Lemaha, with the screen name yzemaze or yzemaze, for being the 4th and final quarter-finalist. First of all, updating the score, still great finish for Ilya, being in the top 8. Actually, one of the 2 players that managed this without achieving the rank of master. So out of the 8 quarterfinals that we have, it was only my teammate Napamai and isloun who actually are experts. All the other ones are masters. And we're going to have ourselves 4 masters in the semifinals. So yzemaze is going to be playing someone you know, where he's going to have chances, but the reigning champion seems to be in really, really good shape, so I expect someone you know to be the favorite. I'll also do my best to cover that match live, even if it is early in the morning. I'm going to put an alarm clock for this one. The only reason I chose not to wake up early today for yzemaze's isloun was because I needed to get the sleep for my own match, and it absolutely paid off. If I'm completely honest, I was actually meeting with a Carcassonne player and doing some practice at my home on Wednesday and Thursday and kind of showing them around my city where I live. And as a result, I didn't get quite good sleep on Thursday. So then, in order to compensate, to get my sleep for the match against Rabbit Rain, I went to bed really early, and then I woke up today at 11:50 when my match was scheduled to 12 p.m. And that was just perfect. Oh, by the way, so you can see the quarterfinals and everything. Now the semifinals. So yzemaze playing against someone you know, and I will be playing against Bakshay. I'm pretty sure that Otto Nalaheim is going to cover that on his channel. I already informed him that the match is going to take place on Monday, March 3rd, 13:30 UTC. So that should be an exciting best of 5 against the Time Master. And now time to check the chat a little bit. Oh, that's a bombshell. So saying that yzemaze is saying that you're going to cover my match even if Nalaheim won't. But Nalaheim will. I'm pretty sure he will. Congratulations, yzemaze, for the well-deserved win. Now, if I were to devote a bit of the stream to having a look through games against Rabbit Rain, then I wonder what y'all would be even interested in. Because obviously I don't think we can cover all 5 games. Are there any key moments? Or there are a few moments which I think are key moments, or we could pick one game or something like that. Okay, we do have 3 comments. So it's happening. We're now going to review my match against Rabbit Rain. I guess we could do like a little bit of everything. This was also a match which I think ended up being quite high level, but there were mistakes from both sides, both from myself and from Rabbit Rain as well. Some with quite far-reaching consequences. That 1-point loss was rather painful. Okay, so let me just pick some key moments. I want to have a look from a little bit of for every game. Let's start with the first one. So as you can see from the final score, it looks like it was one-sided, but it really wasn't. Wait, what's happening? What did I click? So this is game 1 against Rabbit Rain. And in this one, I just wanted to look through the opening. So some normal moves at the start. But there's going to be one move from my opponents, which maybe surprised me a little bit, and they had some far-reaching consequences. Now Red is starting a new city next to his monastery. Overall, a great start for Mr. Rabbit here. Even though Yellow's ahead on the scoreboard, they have the starting player advantage, and they have this, you know, the high scoring potential here on the board. Now, this is a move which surprised me a little bit. What I expected them to do was something like this, where they would be setting up a 6-point monastery for themselves. Instead, they set up a 5-point monastery, which I'm not quite exactly sure why was the case. In any case, this is what they did. This now allows me to equalize the monastery and also put a bit of pressure on this square. They start a road in the only possible reasonable place, and I get myself a monastery. And it's also a very interesting moment. A move that was super tempting to me was actually meepling the monastery over here. And the reason for this is that because all the city plus road tiles are still in the deck, and then if my opponent gets something like this, or something like this, like a butterfly, then they're actually forced to complete my city. Because there are no places on the board where you can use city plus road tiles productively. And it was super tempting, but then I figured that the value of that is a bit too marginal. And this move, for example, it just sets up my opponent's monastery a little bit too nicely. So instead, I went for the normal, boring, but effective stacking. And here, my opponent surprised me a little bit. They went over here and dropped a farmer. So first of all, the farmer is really good, but it surprised me because Rabbit Rain is really known for postponing farmers. But against me, I think they were really preparing against me specifically because they were the first on the field in most games, actually. If not all 5 games, I will need to check that. And it's not something they usually do. And I'm pretty sure that was preparation. But here, I really think that it was a geometrical mistake that ended up costing them dearly. We are running a bit short on field plus field tiles, specifically on field plus field tiles, because 3 Doritos, well, from his perspective, 2 Doritos already gone. Not Doritos, vanillas. And he needs vanillas already over here. So I actually thought a stronger configuration for red was to go over here instead and drop a farmer, also setting up a nice monastery spot. I'm going to see how that's going to matter a little bit later. Also, let's actually turn in our good old friend Carcassonne Reviewer. And let's go. I decided to start a city here. That was also a move which required some time for me. Well, the idea is pretty straightforward. I'm trying to block this square. And if I'm not succeeding, well, I'm still building up my monasteries anyway. And if my opponent defends, well, that's fine. I can still maybe try and block the other square as well. The downside of this move is that I'm dropping a city cap in my opponent's field, but in reality, this field, even though it's only worth 3 points, is so good due to the ginormous number of green squares surrounding it that I will be likely to fight for the field regardless, so it doesn't matter necessarily how many city caps are on there. There were some alternative moves available to me. For example, I could have gone over here and finished my city. But remember that idea that I had earlier about forcing a city plus road tile, or forcing my opponents to help me with a city plus road tile? This is an idea that my opponents can also exploit. So let's say if I were not to go here, and I were to just peacefully finish my city on the right, which was also a move that I was contemplating. And it has some strength, that move. It exposes another blocking platform against my opponent's city. Well, that's actually its main strength. That's what it does. And then there's some scenarios where I can block this square and then get my 2 monasteries out and get myself a meeple majority in a game where fields seem to be important. But then if I do this, my opponents can get something like a straight line, and then I can get an umbrella tile, in which case I'm forced to finish their road, and it's really an unpleasant thing to be forced to do. Hi, Otto. Saying time to see how differently we think. There were some differences, but actually, well, as you also said, I've rewatched your coverage of the match, and there are very, very few disagreements that we have. Maybe there was one move which Otto severely disliked, but I actually quite liked it, and that was in game 2. But other than that, well, there are going to be some differences. I think the main difference is, by the way, if y'all are interested, really, if you want to see how differently we think, then you have to watch my coverage and Otto's coverage of yesterday's quarterfinal between yzemaze and Napalm Eye. Because there... Wait, no. Not between yzemaze, between Pakshe and Napalm Eye, because there were quite a few disagreements regardless. Anyway, so now Rabbit Rain starts a monastery. And also note, imagine if this curve were here, as I was suggesting earlier. Imagine if this curve were here, then this monastery already would have been better developed. Now, there's still two monasteries that fit into this square, but 2 is really not that much, and there are only 2 city cap tiles, and also these city cap tiles are needed here, so red is starting to need the same tile in a lot of places. Hi, Sanaki, thank you for the kind words. So now another interesting decision here. My first instinct was to just go over here. Wait, what? Yeah, was just to go over here, just a bit some interface things. And the point of this is very simple. We block this square, and we block our opponent's city, which is what we wanted to do in the first place, but we also block both of our monasteries, so this is all a wash. And because this move only prevents points from our opponents, it doesn't actually give us a meeple advantage. Its urgently is much, much less. And if we go here, then there are actually some scenarios how we get these meeples tied together, or maybe black gets to develop a big ruin and eats up one of our city caps. Like, there are a lot of bad things that could happen. And then if red gets a couple of cows, for example, big city tiles, and tries to eat up this meeple, maybe I get this meeple out alive. But still, because this square is blocked, I have 2 monasteries blocked and my opponent has 1. And this could make all the difference in the world when we're dealing with a big field. So that's why I decided to delay it, simply go equalize the farmer, try to build up my monasteries, and so on and so on. My opponent makes their strongest move of covering up that square and starting a new city. Now, it is quite tempting for me to go over here simply to score 4 points and shorten my opponent's city by a little bit, but of course I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to go over here instead. It could be tempting here to drop a farmer on what should become a little 9-point field, but I'm not going to do that precisely because of the type of my tile that my opponent has. They now go here, and they of course meeple the city to equalize a yellow meeple, and having a yellow farmer here instead and no meeple here would be much, much, much worse. And at this point, I'm liking my position. My opponent doesn't have any meeples. I have 3 meeples. I have 12 points on the scoreboard. Even though my opponent has actually more points overall, because they will be getting this Dorito tile for like 12 or 14. They will be, or 16 even, actually. They will be getting a city cap here. They will be getting a crossroads here. And with just these 3 things, they will be already ahead of me. My plan now to equalize this position is to simply play against their, well, to play my meeple majority, really. So the invasion of the road is pretty obvious. They have only 1 legal move. Now, also instructive moment. I could go and connect the roads over here, but I really hate giving my opponent a meeple back. So what I did instead, I just went over here, building up my monasteries, getting 2 points, And I'm taking a bit of a risk because my opponent can get a crossroad tile, in which case they're going to have themselves a 5-point road and I'm going to have a 2-point road. But this risk is absolutely worth it, just because I can benefit so much from my opponent not having meeples, even if it's just for a few moves. They get a curve, which they use to complete the monastery, and I get the road monastery, which is fantastic news for me, not only because I get to invade the field and try to accomplish some point scoring, but simply because, but also because there are now fewer tiles that fit into this square. Which brings us to an important moment. So normally the most efficient building approach is to just go over here and take a meeple back. But they figured that there's so few tiles remaining to fit into the square that they need to fill this tile right now. And this is the first instance where they're forced to use their tiles suboptimally. And this is a huge strategic gain for yellow. Remember earlier, when they could have avoided this configuration and gone here with the road earlier on, then they would have just peacefully finished their city, equalized the meeple counts, and played from there. But now their meeple gets trapped for longer, and also they expose an empty city cap, which yellow is likely to pick up on. But not with this tile, as I simply get to build up my monastery at the top. And here, they make a move which surprised me, which I was happy to see because I think it was a mistake afterwards. After all, well, actually, do let me know in the comments what you would do here as red. So first of all, it's really not a great tile to have when you're red, because you can't use it anywhere productively. So some options include going here, maybe trying to set up some blocking opportunities from red's perspective. But because there's still so many crossroads left in the deck, this is not really all that valuable. And so the move that I would have played as red is a bit unorthodox, but I actually think it is the strongest. The move that I really like for red here is going over here and seemingly blocking my own monastery. The point is that there's still 2 dagger tiles available, and then our plan as red is to get a meeple back from any of these places. It's still quite likely. And then, after yellow tries and block the square, to successfully defend, and then get the dagger and score the 8 points and the monastery. So that actually will be an incredibly, incredibly high impact sequence. It also happens to be the only move that I see for red. You could also go here, for example, make it much easier for you to finish the monastery, just setting up a straight line. But that would be way, way, way too risky because it would be giving back a city, an 8-point city for yellow. Really not something that you want to be doing when you don't have meeples. Oh, yzemaze is saying self-block. Yes, I believe that is the move indeed. I really think it is the strongest. It is a very weird idea, but one that luckily for me, red missed. And instead they make this move, which is something that I'm absolutely delighted to see because they're losing points, right? Instead of waiting for a crossroads or something, they're actually connecting me to red. And this is why I did not connect to red's road. I wanted red to do this. So now I just get a crossroad. No, I get a curve. I start a road. There's so many crossroads remaining that I can just quite easily get myself a meeple back. They get 2 points. And then I get this. Then they get 2 points as well. They're also threatening to get a curve and push my road into this blocked square, so I have to defend. There's really not much of a choice, and as you can see, there's still 12 tiles that fit into the square. It's not much of a concern. Here they surprise me a little bit. The move that I would have made as red is something simple, just going over here, scoring 2 points, trying to block yellow's road, I really don't see what's wrong with that. I guess what's wrong with that is that yellow could go over here and meeple the city, but so what? Like, you gotta take some risks. Instead, they find something else, which is rather clever, actually. So they just leave this alone. They leave a city cap up for grabs. They leave a road up for grabs. I didn't see this idea for them, but when they placed that move, I perceived this as a good move from red. And the point of this is that, let's say I take the city cap, they take the road, or vice versa. Then point scoring wise, it's equal, but then my monastery square becomes much, much more vulnerable, and then they can get a curve here and get themselves a meeple majority. Now, a very, very important move here from yellow. When you get blocked, you have to do one of two things, either defend or counter block. Defending is not really an option, because if I go here, well, I get blocked in one of the numerous ways. If I do it differently, wait, what? If I do it differently, why can't I rotate? Okay, no, it doesn't matter. If I do it differently, then, there we go. If I do it differently, then they can block like this with a city tile, so there's really no point in doing this. And then I decide to counter block, and the point is either they get the city tiles to block me, or they get the road tiles to save themselves, but they're unlikely to do block, and to do both. And this is actually what happens. They get a monastery to block me. I get a city tile to block them. There's no road monastery available. They could now go here actually and block that square completely, but they shouldn't be doing that, because there's already only one square, the only one tile remaining that fits into this square, so this monastery has been restricted enough, and they have far, far more important priorities. They, of course, need to do what they did. Wait, what? Why can't I click stuff? Why can't I click stuff? Is Board Game Arena doing its thing again? Oh, yes! Page is unresponsive. Okay, move number 61, right? Yeah, Board Game Arena. Move number 61. Anyway, so of course they finished their city. They also finish one of their monasteries in the process, and two of mine. I get a curve to defend myself from a block, but not successfully, as they get a blocking tile regardless. Then, oh wait, of course we need to do this again. Anyway, so they do this, right? I try to block. Also important to observe the dagger asymmetry. As you can see, if I block on the left, then there are 2 fewer tiles remaining to fit into the square compared to the other side. Some quick points for them. And just wanted to bring things to a key moment. I start a new city, of course. It looks like it still needs 2 tiles for completion, but there's still a lot of city caps available, so that city is actually incredibly dangerous, which is why they choose to forego scoring opportunities. They don't go over here for 4 points, whereas actually this is what I expected them to do. Instead, they go and try and block me. I, of course, try to block them. There's only 1 tile available that fits into the square, so that is just great news for me. And now comes a sequence that is super, super instructive from their side. So they're a little bit behind, and many expert level players would just go here and take 2 points and just do something, you know, weak like this. But instead, they're going for the big money. They're taking 2 points over here and setting it up some gambly things. they're trying to get a city plus road tile before me, and this is incredibly annoying because I can't do anything about this. I just have to accept the coin flip. And also, leaving an 8-point city like this up for grabs is actually very good for them because they already know that I need city plus road tiles elsewhere. If I do get this 8 points though, they will block me with greater likelihood, but if I do get 8 points, I probably still win regardless, or at least get myself a very, very good advantage. But as you can see, I of course choose to score on the right, which is tremendously important. When my opponent sets up a scoring opportunity, I need to respond in kind. Also, there's still 5 straight lines available, and I make sure that I have a good use for it. It was super, super important to make this move here. And then they get the starting tile and score 8 points. Like, when they made the 2-point move here, and when I didn't draw a city plus road tile and drew a curve, like, I just knew that they're going to have a starting tile or something like this in hand. Like, I just knew. Well, anyway. I continue my city, also renew the threat of its completion. They now get a starting tile again and try to join my city. I get myself back the meeple majority as a result of completing my road. And now we're about to reach one more interesting moment as they choose to invade my city instead of connecting over here. And I actually thought at the time that this move was a little bit too desperate. Now they can still get meeples back in a variety of places. They could get a meeple here with a city cap, here with another city cap, but that's actually it, really. So they will be losing value from crossroads if they are to get crossroads. That's a bit sad for them. And yeah, I don't know. I think this move is just a little bit too ambitious. Because in order for it to succeed, they need to not only get 2 Doritos or triple cities, but they also need to get a third one before I get to invade them. And it's just so easy for me to invade that I'm really not sure if this ever works. At least I liked seeing this when they did this, and I thought that it was not necessarily the best move. Well, it's tough to say, because obviously we know from the result of the match that it didn't work. But I felt that they can still just make the normal move of going over here, and they can still threaten the same stuff, because this city would still be up for grabs for either side, and since they decided to be a bit gambly, since they are... Well, actually, they aren't even behind. That's also quite interesting, because if they succeed to draw the dagger and this, then they suddenly are ahead. I mean, of course, my position is better because I have the temporary meeple majority and it is worth more than the extra points that they have. But still, simply going over here and then just setting up that coin flip is very, very nice for them because they can just get... They can hope to get a splitter tile or a city cap tile a little bit later and try to go for the big money when it's available. So I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity for them. I would be really curious to find out what their logic was. And it could be either something aggressive. Maybe they're thinking that they really need to risk it all this early and try to complete this city before I manage to invade. Or maybe it was defensive. Again, maybe they placed it over here because they thought that them going over here would expose this city too dangerously for a re-attacking opportunity. But I don't think that it was a defensive idea. I think it was a rather an aggressive idea because Rabbit Rain has shown that they are definitely much less defensive than the majority of top players. And they very often go for a high risk, high reward situation. In this case, I just don't think it was that high reward as they really don't finish that city very often. Ice is saying Rabbit Train is sometimes way too aggressive with the last meeple. So previously in Carcassonne Champions League matches, I think their aggression was on point. I think in this particular game, it was a bit of excessive risk compared to what the game situation actually mandated, because I have here a very strong response. With this move, I go here and score 2 points. Of course I don't. 2 points, 2 points. No, 2 points is for experts. I go here and meeple road, trying to get one of the 1-9 tiles that are available here. I try to get a very long road in 2 moves, and also I give myself another invasion platform over here. They try to block my roads, but I instantly draw myself a crossroads. They now find a fantastic move to their credit. They are doing 2 things, actually 3 things in reality. They are trying to block this road, because only I can score because I have meeples, but they don't. But they're also trying to prevent me from going here and invading the city. And the third thing that they're doing is this move actually sets up a ninja farmer connection for the future. So something important about the shape of the board that also needs to be taken into account. And to be honest, I actually relieved that they played this move, because imagine if they hadn't. Now, what I did, of course, was to get a meeple back. It's a rather easy decision here. But I wonder, had they not gone here and I would draw this tile, like, what was the correct move for me? So I think I would have gone here and used the meeple and just done the responsible thing. But it would have been sorely, sorely tempting to just go here and get a meeple back. I really want to think that I would have the discipline to go here and equalize. But luckily they didn't even force me to make that decision. They now connect here. I managed to reconnect. And now the only way they can really threaten me is that if they get the last splitter and then the Dorito and the city cap. So in that sense, their move would work. But in order for that to work, they would also need to draw everything before I get a Dorito myself. And the problem for them is that I'm threatening a Dorito either in this square to complete the invasion on the left, or in this square to equalize their 1-point meeple on the right. They get a curve to take out a 4-point road, and I get a splitter with which I choose to equalize the meeple on the right with some extra steps, trying to get myself an extra meeple into the city. Even though everything might get blocked, it's just very nice insurance to have in this position to just make sure that they can never overrun the city. And in fact, they will have to worry about the city for the rest of the game. And I'm still very likely to overrun it anyway. As you can see from this tile counter, still 5 tiles that fit into the square. No way to block this completely in one move. They try to make a restriction move, and now we come to probably the trickiest find of the game, to be honest. So here I contemplated several moves. I was thinking of going over here, slightly protecting this square, because it would still leave 3 tiles that connect here. I disregarded this move because I don't like making defenses like this unless there's a big disparity in the tile pool between the city plus road tile and the city plus field tiles. Since there are 3 city plus road tiles for connection, and there are 2 city plus field tiles for connection, using a city plus road tile is a bit more likely than a city plus field tile, so it would make sense to protect this connection like this. But what this would also do, it would still reduce my option. It would still take those 2 lovely city plus field tiles away from me. So I decided that it is not a good idea to do so. Second, I was considering just going over here and dropping a farmer. Even though it is my last meeple, this field connection is extremely likely to occur because there are still many curvy tiles, and the field is worth a lot of points. The reason why I disregarded that move is because there are plenty of ways to get myself a disaster scenario. Red could get themselves a meeple back pretty soon, and then the board is their oyster. They could get a meeple back here. They could maybe go here and invade this 12-point city and win that. And then they could get another farmer and equalize my field and so on and so on. They could maybe go here actually and block the farm connection in total. So I disregarded this. And instead I made what I think was my strongest move by far in this position. It was going over here in that particular way and trying to block my opponent's city cap. It's a bit too long to explain, but maybe you can see from the pool of unseen tiles why this orientation is in fact the strongest. There are just many, many ways for me to block the square successfully. They do this. I get myself, luckily, the last connection tile. So after this point, I think the game is very close to being over, because in order for them to win, they would need to get these two meeples back ASAP and then equalize the city and then maybe overrun the field. But even then, with my last meeple, I can probably inflict some damage. So they go here, and I finally complete the blocking sequence by going over here. And it looks like I'm prolonging their city, but in fact, there are no more tiles that fit into this square. There are no Doritos, there are no dividers. And then really the last moves we don't have to watch necessarily. But the story of this game that I wanted to tell is really just about one geometrical idea from red, one miss from red, and this is this early farmer over here. Because this farmer ended up blocking their city. Now, I guess they did get actually quite unlucky, because the daggers came out late and they had other city caps available in the deck for them to recover the city. But if only had they gone one square to the right and dropped a farmer like this, then this monastery would have been in much better shape. And then this city cap, they would not have to use like this. They could have just gotten themselves a meeple back much, much earlier with this vanilla city cap. Moreover, if they were to have a meeple back, they would not have to use this tile to finish our shared road, and they would not be losing more points. So it's really that geometrical idea of just leaving too many field plus field squares next to their monasteries when many field plus field tiles have gone out that made the game a bit difficult for them. And after that, they of course made some just amazing moves. Like this sequence was lovely. This was, I think, not the best move, but it's definitely a move by someone who's really trying to win the game, and I respect that a lot. And, you know, had this actually worked, then everybody would say that this is genius. But at that point, it was just like a little bit too late, because yellow's advantage was a little bit too much, and so on and so on. Hi, Victor. So yeah, so this whole idea is really about moving this curve earlier on to the right. One small thing. Alrighty, so from the second game, I probably want to show just two key moments. One about a strong disagreement where I have with Otto, and another one where I think I made a mistake but ended up not paying for it. So let's go to game 2, actually. Well, yeah, well, here, spoiler alert, I won. Because at that point, really, red can't do anything, even with the best possible run out of tiles. All right, so game 2, again, and that one was actually where I was behind. So I get to be the starting player, and normal moves at the start. This is what we have. Wait, tile counter. I have to add the tile to my opponent in order not to add it to them. They start a monastery. I would have actually considered starting a monastery in the other place for them, but they go for the most points. Now, that actually makes a lot of sense. I start a road. They do this, which is their best move. They're trying to poke some fun at this road meeple over here. There are actually some scenarios how a straight line goes here, a Dorito goes here, I have 2 meeples blocked, and so on and so on. And in generally, it makes it difficult for me to use curves, for example. Now here comes a very interesting moment. So if this meeple were not here, I was already preparing to go over here, which would be the standard move in this situation. I build up my city, I pre-finish my road because there are so many curves that go here. That's just so lovely. I can then try and build around this square, maybe like this, like this, like this, finish with a Dorito and so on and so on. But because of their meeple over here, I didn't want to do it. Well, first of all, there are some scenarios where they get a crossroad tile, and then now this square is restricted. It's still not a big deal because there are still going to be 6 crossroads remaining after that, and I'm still going to get myself some chances to get a meeple back. So in this configuration, it's a bit unfortunate that it's a bit difficult for me to build up on the right because my road meeple becomes a bit more vulnerable, but all of that is not such a big deal. The main reason why I didn't do this, but I played this move, was to simply play against this road meeple. So it's just a mini battle, really. They have a 1-pointer on the road, and all I need to do is just get one of the many Doritos or triple city tiles. There's still 15 of those that fit into this square. And then my 5-point or whatever city is controlling their 1-point meeple. And it's quite difficult for them to get out because then they're forced to spend a good tile against my city. It's probably something like this, an umbrella tile. It could be one of those horses, but even if they get a horse, like it could be a while, I can still build around the square and block it completely. And also to rub it in, what's unpleasant for them in this position is that this city, if it becomes blocked together with the city, starts controlling this monastery because I have no intention or no incentive to fill in this square if my meeple cannot get back. Now, all I need to do is draw a Dorito or a triple city tile before they get a city plus road tile. They do happen to get a city plus road tile immediately, and maybe this is why my move looks like a mistake. But in fact, I still think that it is the best move in this position. Because even now, I've made them use a good city cap for a shared feature, and now their monastery is not that great because this city has now become a shared, so they will be forced to use a city tile here. So even though I will not be getting all these city tiles for myself, although that was actually quite a likely scenario to occur, at the very least, you know, their monastery building becomes a little bit awkward. So that was just the moment that I wanted to talk about. And Nalaheim in his stream really advocated for this other move. I, of course, saw that idea, but just because of all those mini battle ideas, chose to forego it. And again, if this meeple is not here, then of course this would be quite a heavy mistake. But with this road meeple, in my view, everything changes here. Yeah, so now I start playing against the road meeple. Let's see if there is something interesting there occurring a bit later, because we do play a lot of natural moves. I score. There will be a couple of interesting moments here. Yeah, so here, again, so they start dropping a farmer, and they are creating the threat of completing the city. It's really, really annoying Because in addition to the threat of completing the city, they're actually putting a lot of pressure on these squares. There's only one dagger remaining that fits here, and they could get something like a road Dorito and block 2 of my meeples, or at least severely delay them, and it's not something that I want to do. So I really considered just doing this and getting out of this situation, but I figured that the threat of them completing an easy city is worse. And case in point, they did have the city cap tile in hand, so this invasion ended up paying off. Again, they just make a normal move, continuing the city. And now I have a straight line. I also need to make some decisions. Their farmer, again, second time in a row, Rabbit Rain, who normally delays fields, or at least was delaying fields until this match, they are the first on the field quite proactively, and it's a field with a lot of potential, as you all will be able to see. I have a straight line, and my first idea was to go actually here, to simply not allow them a road Dorito or something like this. But then if I do this, then I'm pressuring my own meeple a little bit here, and I really didn't like that. So I just decided to go here, and I think it is correct, but it's also quite instructive. Because even if they get the Dorito now, then I can get a straight line and block their meeple in the response. So if the worst happens, then I'm just much more likely to counter block, and we end up with the same meeple count, just as in a more close position. They now have an interesting options. They could invade the city, but they, I think, correctly chose this. Finishing a road, starting a new city. I could actually have invaded the city here, but to be honest, I didn't even consider this, because this move felt like so natural. I mean, we take 2 points and we delay their city severely, and especially since they only have 1 meeple in hand, it makes it so that delaying the recovery of their meeples is quite valuable. Then they find a really strong move of continuing their monastery like this. It sets up a very good use of one of the 7 remaining straight lines, a tile which they otherwise don't need, and most importantly, it protects their monastery from a block, because if I were to get something like a, I don't know, road Dorito, or regular Dorito, anything really, with a city, then suddenly this square is super vulnerable for the same reason as these meeples, why these meeples are vulnerable, because the 2 daggers, right, have gone out. There's only 1 of these guys remaining. So, now another interesting moment here. I could go here and just connect the cities, get out of harm's way. The reason why I didn't want to do it is twofold. First of all, it's a shield. I want to use it for myself. And second, this situation here at the bottom is dangerous, and I am getting out alive as soon as possible. I don't want to get blocked here. I had a third alternative, which I didn't really consider seriously. Invading over here with 4 triple tiles remaining. That looks strong, but it really isn't. Because most of the time, if we go here, we get restricted to, well, not most of the time, actually. I'm not really sure how often this happened. But the point is, once the quadruple city tile has gone out, any invasion like this, where 2 meeples are trying to overrun the city of their opponents by using a triple city tile, it's much more dangerous to do than normal, because there are sequences that allow my opponent to block the square. And I felt that my position was decent, that I didn't need to go for stuff like this. So I just simply made a normal move, and okay, they just score. I get a meeple back. And lo and behold, they draw the single best tile they could have drawn. They draw the second splitter. They drop a farmer to rub it in, and now Red's position is just incredibly, incredibly good. Now, the city is not such a big deal. I mean, it's 12 points versus 4. And also, I just got myself an 8-point city anyway, so in that sense, it's a wash, and I'm still ahead on the scoreboard. But these 2 farmers are so good And it's not necessarily clear if I want to be fighting for that field, but if I do want to be fighting for that field, then they already got themselves quite the head start. So this is the position that we're having. I guess at some point it's probably worth skipping a few moves. If y'all do have any questions about them, then do let us know. Also notice how Red placed their last meeple with just no regrets whatsoever, in a way that also endangered this city a little bit, but it ended up paying off. And actually, I agree with Red here. So it was really annoying to witness. Except for that first game, they actually have a really good feeling of when to use their last meeple or not. And this is where I agree with Rabbit Rain. It was a very strong monastery, deceptively strong. I tried to block that monastery a little bit. And the idea is maybe I could draw some sort of big tile here, commit the square toward the starting tile, then finish my own monastery and, you know, get myself a meeple back and so on and so on. And also this is the last dagger, which is great news for me because now I have many road plus road blocking sequences against the square because the triple city the left-handed dagger theoretically fits there, so we could take advantage of this fact to block. With this move, I strongly considered going over here, starting a new city, and then maybe getting myself a city plus road tile and blocking the square. And the reason why I didn't want to do that is because there are not that many city plus road tiles really. I also need a city plus road tile here to invade Red City before it becoming a bit too dangerous. And I also really don't like dropping a city cap in my opponent's field. Because whilst my opponent's field is at 15 points and they've invested 2 meeples, my win condition is still flexible. Like, I don't want to grow their field to a point where I absolutely have to fight for it. In all likelihood, I will have to fight for it, but I don't want to be forced to do that. So that was my idea here. Just building the city, and then I plan to use the many remaining road tiles. Just look at this. 6 straight lines, 6 curves to go over here and block that square. They build up their monastery. They also help my monastery, but they're helping theirs more than they help mine. I take the only scoring move possible. And this is the moment where they find an incredibly strong move. And it's counterintuitive because this move looks bad, but it's really strong. So a normal player would go here. That's quite a canonic move. You know, it's pretty strong as well, you know. If you go here, there's so many Doritos remaining that you can just threaten the completion of a lip-shaped city before even Yellow manages to blink an eye, but they have a different idea in place. And I think they correctly identified that they actually don't necessarily need to threaten that city early on in order to win. With many Dorito tiles, they can threaten it later. Maybe they could get one of these guys and then just threaten the completion of the city with a Dorito plus Dorito pattern. And they don't have to go for that, you know, extra triple city tile here. So they played this. Now, why is it strong? Reason number 1, they're preparing to finish a monastery that would give them a meeple back without giving a meeple back to me. Second, their city now becomes much less blockable, even though it is going to use several more tiles. Well, now it actually needs at the very least 2 more tiles in order to be completed. This square is no longer blockable. You know, this threat with the dagger tile, it's not a big deal. And the third is that their scenario is how they're taking over this city from me. And it's not really something that I want seeing. I get, of course, a curve. I start a new road at the bottom. Not sure if that's the best move for me, but I kind of really like the idea of not allowing their big city to turn into a threat, and at this point they go here. Which is quite an annoying thing to deal with. And I know that from my perspective, I can actually block this city very often, like with a couple of roads, especially given the fact that the dagger tile has gone out. So for example, something as simple as curve plus curve works here like a charm. And there's still 4 curves available, and this would be a complete block. The problem with that idea is that if they do get themselves the triple city tile, and they go over here, that city is going to be worth 11 points at least, 11, 12, something like this. And then this ruin plus this ruin would be quite difficult for me to overtake. In fact, I would probably need to equalize their field and then some, and I just did not want to put myself in that position. So I decided to do this. They build up their stuff at the bottom. Here, I was thinking of doing this to restrict their roads. But if I were to do that, then they could just get another road and still renew the threats of completing the road like this. So that's why I didn't like it. So I went here instead, just trying to protect my invasion square and also build up the monastery in the process. But going over here with a straight line was not necessarily a bad idea, and that would have been my second favorite. The main reason why I decided to go for this was because I figured that them getting a loop is not necessarily a bad idea, because it would open up the field a little bit more, and this would give me more chances to use my meeple majority for a field invasion. One thing which I have going very, very well for me in this position is the fact that their city is all but blocked. There's only one tile that fit into the square. Even if they draw it, there's an easy way to take care of these other squares. So a big field fight for me is not necessarily a bad thing. The fact that I handle that in not the best possible way does not mean much. They build up stuff. I get myself a meeple back. It's more important than scoring 4 points over here. I just generally started valuing meeples a little bit more after studying the games of Japanese masters, in particular of Koki Yamaguchi, when I was preparing to my group stage round against him. And the strategy of just valuing meeples a little bit more than I normally would really gave good results this year. We exchange natural moves. They now try to complete a loop, and this is a strategic decision for me now. I need to decide whether I want to be fighting for the field or not, and I decided that, you know what, yes, my 9 points on the scoreboard are not enough. They have a ruin at the bottom, they have a road which is going to be completed, and the field is open enough for me to get some farmers. They went here, which I don't think is their strongest move. Well, I guess they block off a 4-point road. They create a platform to attack my city, but there's still a sizable number of city caps remaining, so I really don't think it's that strong. They're probably better off just going here, trying to threaten a city perhaps and force me to block. Or maybe they can just go here and think about blocking my monastery or restricting my monastery a little bit, plus also restricting the field's connection. So when I was placing a farmer, the idea behind this farmer is not necessarily to connect like this. I mean, this of course is the main idea, because I want to be also meepling a monastery and so on. There's also this sneaky idea of dropping a farmer here and connecting like this with both farmers through the other side. Oh yeah, and if they were to get a Dorito tile here, then this would cut off, this would not only threaten a block over here, but this would also cut off the other route for the farmer. Oh yeah, so I continue my city, of course, in a rather safe way. They try to continue their city, and even though, you know, there are not many tiles that fits into these two squares, there's still a few sequences how they could complete it. They could, for example, get an umbrella or a dagger that goes here, and then the starting tile, and we need to prevent that. This was a move which I played a little bit too fast, simply because I decided in advance, but basically I have several ways of blocking here. I can block like this, forcing them to draw a sequence of 2 consecutive starting tiles, which simply does not exist. Or I could block like this. And the advantages of this move is that it stops the ruin from growing, because like if I go here, then they could get a triple city tile, a Dorito, another triple city tile, and then maybe a extender or something like this, and I didn't like it. But the advantages of this move is that it allows me to invade the ruin if I have to. I didn't really assess it that carefully. I figured that closing off the ruin is just fine, because the field is all the rage, and I can probably afford them to have 12 points. They get the road monastery to get a meeple back. Now I make a super important move, a timely farmer over here. And the point of that move is that they're now forced to let me into the field. Because if they don't, or even if they get something like a crossroads here, which would be their dream tile to score points, to score more points for the road, then my farmer at the top is not bad, because it's going to be a 6-point farmer once I complete my city at the top with one of the 4 remaining city caps. yzemaze sharing very sad news in the chat that the semi-final is going to be between yzemaze and someone you know is going to be on Tuesday 1500 UTC, which of course is great in the sense that it's soon, but it's not great in the sense that there's 0 chance that I will be able to stream that, sadly. So after the group stage, every match that has been involving someone you know has been scheduled at a time which is absolutely impossible for me to cover, but hopefully that Otto is on it. But yeah, I really like watching, commentating Vladimir's games. So they do let me into the field. I decide to drop a farmer here. It's a bit of a long explanation, but basically, long story short, I can get a meeple back here, I can get a meeple back here. I have many tiles, actually 6 tiles in the deck that give me meeple back. And then this farmer, it serves 2 purposes. Well, first of all, it takes out what I perceive as the best field invasion platform, because red can just drop a 3rd farmer quite easily to start fighting for the field. And second, it's very difficult to block, because it can either invade through here, or I can invade through here through one of the 2 remaining curves. And now comes the key position of the game. They play what I think is their best move, going over here and creating a threat, and it accomplishes so much. I don't know where to even start. So first of all, they have meeples and I don't, and this move, it sets up a 5-point road, it sets up a 4-point city, it sets up another field connection platform. It just blows the position wide open. On top of that, it is asking a very direct question to this here meeple, saying, well, what you gonna do? Because if they get a road tile here, then my monastery is blocked and my farmer is blocked, and this would put me in a very sad position. yzemaze is saying, oh, thank you for being so considerate. I mean, you definitely pick the time that's better for the players, but if you can also play on Thursday, to be honest, if that's the same time, if that's 1500 UTC, then probably Thursday is even worse. Now, if it's something like 12 or like 20, then that's of course a different question. But I doubt that Vladimir is going to want to play this late, because there's a bit of a time difference. So yeah. Oh, so I guess then this is going to be my last. Well, I hope that it's going to be my last Champions League stream, because so I can't stream Vladimir yzemaze, and I obviously can't stream my own game against Bakshay. And I'm really going to do my best to try and make it to the finals. And in that case, I won't be able to stream the finals either, and there is no bronze medal game match. So, well, let's just make the most of today, shall we? So basically this tile over here, and here I made at the very least a time management mistake. Basically, I just made up my mind that I'm going to react to this threat in a certain way, but I think here I should really have thought for longer. Like here, it's probably a good idea to spend 1 or 2 minutes out of the 4 or so, or 3.5 minutes that I had remaining at this point, to try and figure out the priorities. So do we get myself a guaranteed meeple back to make sure that I have a meeple for the field fight, and then I allow the block if my opponent draws the tile? Or do I do something like this? And this move would delay the completion of my city, but it would still leave a sufficient number of tiles that could be used here or here. So, and I think this move was actually better, at least intuitively. In the game I did this, and we can see how it backfired, as they block me. So with this particular sequence, like, they blocked me immediately, and I would have had a straight line. I would have had a monastery that fit here, and then I would have finished my monastery and got a meeple back, and also got myself a farmer. So that's the thing there. One small factor that contributed to my decision was the fact that this farmer is not dead. I still have a sequence to connect over here, albeit a marginal one, but I think that probably just being more disciplined and more calm and defending here was better. One of the reasons why I really hated defending is because, well, I'm spending more time without meeples. I really need the meeples, right? And there's also a way for my opponent to block the city if I defend. So for example, they could get one of these. Like, it would be quite ugly if they just can get a cow and prolong my city, because then it's very difficult for me to finish it. If I get a city cap, then they can block me from all sides, and so on and so on. But one thing that I maybe didn't realize is that finishing the city is probably not that important. Because the point is, if I finish the city, I get points. I get a meeple back. I get some points and a meeple back. If I finish the monastery, I don't get points, but I get a meeple back and I get a farmer into the field. And getting the farmer into the field is just more important than getting those extra 7 city points. And this is where I really should have spent longer and found the more disciplined move that actually protects the monastery square. But I didn't. And played a little bit too fast. And I got myself blocked. I'm still 6 points ahead on the scoreboard, but I have a 0-point farmer, and my second farmer has not yet invaded, and my opponent has the meeple majority, so it looks actually quite grim. My opponent is definitely the favorite to win here. I get the monastery, which I use at the top to try and block some more invasion squares, because I can't afford them having to drop another farmer. They just take quick points. And I make my way into the main field. And there's actually many things that can happen. For example, if something like this is drawn, or maybe something like this is drawn, I can go here and I can protect this square, and I can actually deny them this farmer, because you know what? This guy has not entered into the field, and there are scenarios how with something like this, plus a cow, they get here stranded for 6 points, and I get the farm majority despite having a farmer blocked. This is also an instructive thing, because you know, like when there's a situation where your opponent has a second farmer, but it's like close to the field, but it's not in the field just yet. You can sometimes exploit the fact that they still need to spend that one move to connect their farmer into the field, and if they're not careful enough, if they delay it for too long, you can end up, how do you say, manufacturing a majority on the field where really one is not mandated. And stuff like this is actually how I managed to win my 2023 World Championship semifinals game against Xiang Yuqin. As some of you might have seen, there were a lot of farmers and a lot of curves, and my opponents kept drawing curves for other things, and they needed a curve for field connection, and at some point I just happened to draw the last curve and then deny them the farmer, and then ended up having the field majority in a position which I had really no business winning. Well, anyway, so I made a mistake a move ago. Luckily, my opponent responds in kind. They go over here, and they drop a farmer. I was really puzzled by this move because it wasn't on my radar at all. So first of all, the idea behind this move is pretty straightforward. They're looking for either the vanilla city cap or the monastery to get themselves the farmer. One of the things that I don't like about this move is that it is unbelievably easy to block. I have several ideas. If I get the vanilla city cap here, then this is blocked. If I get the curve, then this is blocked. Or if I get something like this, which I did, then it also gets blocked. So in fact, they have 2 invasion tiles, whereas I have 4 blocking tiles. Now, they might have been banking on the fact that my blocking tiles also happen to be my invasion tiles, because of course, initially, I wanted to get a straight line to go here and to connect to the field, but now I can't. Now I have to do this, but I still have plenty of invasion tiles afterwards. I have the curve, I have the straight line, I have the crossroad, like I can still get something. So this farmer greatly compensates this 0-point farmer. But the main reason why I didn't like them doing this, I mean, I love them doing this, but from their perspective, they should not really be doing this, is because they're actually ahead in this position. They don't necessarily need to invade the farm. It's quite easy to calculate. I am 2 points ahead on the scoreboard. They have 12 points on the ruin. I have 8 on the monastery, which puts them overall at +2. +2 might seem not by much, but with a shortage of scoring tiles available, it's really quite difficult for red to come back without the field, essentially. Or, you know, for yellow to come back without the field. Or maybe a crossroads. I guess if I draw a crossroad for some points, then equality on the field for me is fine, and then they need to come up with something. That said, also, like, if you're gonna drop a farmer, you're probably better off doing it here in a bit of a more traditional spot. Now, if they drop a farmer here, they still have the same 2 invasion tiles. But I have only 2 blocking tiles. The only way I can block is either with the city cap, committing that city to a non-existent, committing that square to a non-existent city cap, or if I get the last curve and block it here and commit that square to a curve which it doesn't have. So it's just simply mathematically better to go here, just because they are fewer options for them to block. Well, for me to block. I guess there are also restriction tiles, like I can get a cow, for example, that goes here, that's quite nice, then it's a 50-50 situation. But anyway, if you're gonna, drop a farmer, then they're probably better off doing like this. This move, I'm also wondering if that was the purpose. It actually gives back another field invasion platform with this tile through a curve like this, or, a city tile through these squares. So there are actually many marginal field invasion platforms in this position. So I complete my block. They connect to the field because they're afraid that I can block them, rightfully so. So they sacrifice 5 points, just to connect to the field. But it's correct from them. I play this move in about 0 seconds, instantly connect to the field back. Then they make this move, which takes out a field's connection platform. And this is a very interesting situation for them, because now that we have an equal meeple count and we're equal on the field, and they're ahead 2 points overall as a result of their ruin being greater than my monastery, they can't really drop a farmer. Because if they drop a farmer somewhere, it is easily blockable, and then I can easily win the game by blocking their farmer and just scoring 3 points for a road somewhere, or 3 points for a field somewhere, just really anything. So instead, they're trying to eliminate fields connection opportunities from me. And now comes the crucial move of the game, where I burned a lot of my time just really trying to evaluate objectively what are my winning opportunities here. Because even though I'm behind only 2 points, it's a really annoying position to be in. Being behind 2 points is not great. So what could I do? First of all, I was thinking of just going here and taking the 6-point road. If I take the 6-point road, then this puts me at +4, and they actually don't have that many opportunities to score. But then I figured that if they have a monastery tile, they can just get 5 points, and this will already put them at +1. So it's really not that great of an idea. I also figured that maybe if I go here and I try to draw the crossroad tile, I can get a meeple. I can not only get 6 points, but I get a meeple back. But if I go here, then the chances of me winning are like 25%. Because I need to draw the crossroad tile right now, so that after I finish my 6-point road, I also have a last meeple available for me to outscore their monastery or city or whatever they're gonna use. Then also I figured out that I actually can't win without this tile, because regardless for which sort of scoring route I go, maybe I decide to wait for a monastery or something, then they can just take 4 points here. 3 points for a road and 1 point for a city. So I just need to hope for this tile. I just need to make sure that this tile, that I can win if I draw this tile at any point, not only on the next move. And also that it has as high as impact as possible. So that's why I went for what I believe is my best endgame move of just going over here and dropping a farmer. And the idea here is pretty straightforward. I'm trying to invade a big field and overrun it, and there's one tile that fits into this square. It's a 50-50 chance to get it, and this square is completely unblockable because all the other tiles are monastery or city tiles, so there's nothing that fits into the square. Now, in reality, my win percentage is actually less than 50. I think it's 37 if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, I didn't bother calculating, because they have a way to win if they get themselves a city tile and then a monastery, because there's this invasion platform that they had set up, and they can use that. But luckily for me, it does not happen. They get a monastery, which they can't use anywhere, They score irrelevant 5 points. I win the coin flip. And I get myself the field invasion, and nothing matters anymore. So I do win this game by 15 points from behind after we exchange with mistakes. I think I could have definitely been cleaner here by just protecting this monastery square here. And generally I should really be exercising a bit more patience. You know, like these moves where you have a city cap, where you can finish yourself a 12-point city and get a meeple back. In order to forego finishing your city, like you're really... Like these moves are not psychologically the easiest ones to pull off, but if I want to keep playing at this level, then I really have to find these sort of moves at a with consistency, basically. yzemaze is saying the extender would also work to attack the secondary field at the bottom whilst also blocking the curve connection for you. Great point. Yeah, I was actually thinking about this during the game. I was also thinking yeah, that actually would have been really, really strong. That would have been really strong. Why did they not do that? I don't know. But, you know, maybe nerves or something. And, you know, it's great to see that, like, they also do human stuff. Not just rabbit stuff. So, yeah, mistake from both sides and ended up with a good old coin flip. So that's game 2 for you. The other ones... Well, really, there were just these 2 moments. I wanted to show you the opening of game 1, that one curve placement that ended up being so impactful, and the opening of game 2 plus the ending of game 2. I mean, there's the ending of game 5 that we can watch, of course. That was definitely quite fun. I guess I'm just gonna wait for a second and maybe y'all let me know if there are any particular moments or moves or games that you'd like to go through. And if not, then I guess I'll just gonna show you the... Maybe the ending of game 5. Game 3 was interesting because I had a great position and I was very close to sealing the match then there. But then somehow, despite my opponent being 20 points behind on the scoreboard and on meeples, they put themselves in a position where I had to go for a coin flip again, hoping for a monastery, and I lost that coin flip. Which is, you know, exactly what you expect in matches at this level. One game ends up with a coin flip that goes red's way, another game ends up with a coin flip that goes yellow's way, and they cancel each other out. Well, yeah, I kind of want to go to game 5, although it seems a bit unfair because I will be showing all the wins then. I guess having a looks at losses could also be interesting in theory. You know what? Either way, 3-minute break for hot water. That's the way to go. So I'm gonna see y'all in 3 minutes, and if y'all have any comments about which games you want to see or which moments you want to see, then let me know. Right, we're back with some hot liquids. Napalm is also suggesting game 5, which you're gonna go for. But I think, because there's one thing that I want to do first. I want to show you one moment from game 4, just to first of all cover one of my losses, because that would be fair. But also there was some really one interesting moment from my opponent's perspective where they found the best move where I really hoped that they wouldn't. Wait, where's the game? Okay, Rabbit Rain. Ooh, they're playing now. So this 93-60, which actually wasn't as one-sided as it looks. I mean, none of the games were really one-sided. So this is one of those where they are the starting player and that they game themselves. A lot of Patori saying in game 5, is your use of the quad crossroads a mistake? Quad crossroads. We're going to have to look at this. Yeah, I think I'm going to show you the entire game 5. It's really interesting. Anyway, so basically I end up in trouble here. As you can see, there are 8 points on the scoreboard. I'm going to have like a bunch of blocked meeples and stuff. And I'm going to fast forward to this move maybe. So here's the situation. Like, it's 17 points for me, it's 40 for them. They have extra meeples. I can still get meeples back from a bunch of places. There's still a dagger that fits into this square, as we will confirm in a second after I switch on the tile counter. So yeah, so still one of these bad boys available to fit over here. And if I can just draw it soon enough, then we're back in the game. And there's also one big strategic idea that I could actually at some point go here and drop a farmer and try to connect to the main field through that tile. It's not longer necessary yet because there's still the field here and so on and so on. But, you know, that's a strategic idea. Then also there are a few tiles that fit into this square, including one city cap. So this city is something that I was setting up for quite some time. And then if I can manage to get this one, for example, I would get 9 for the monastery and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 for the city. Then suddenly I would even overtake them on the scoreboard. Well, actually, no, equalize them with the scoreboard. And yeah, this position is still not that bad, but it's tricky, especially after this, after they blocked my road meeple. yzemaze is saying, just sketched a tree on paper. If I'm not mistaken, the win probability for you was roughly 27. It doesn't sound right, to be honest. I think it should be a bit more than that. Because, yeah, so by the way, the did you take into account that if they reinvade my field, I still have tiles that block the invasion, or that restrict the invasion to 50-50 as well, or if they draw a city cap rather than a cow to start a field invasion, then I have more blocking tiles in the first place. But we might also look at this later, because I'm really interested about those probabilities. Sometimes it really matters. In this game, I think the actual probability did not matter that much, because what matters is how does the win probability of one move compare to the win probability of a different move. And it does seem to me that that move was definitely the best that yellow could come up with, even though I want to know the actual probability. There are some cases with complicated trees like this where actually a choice between two different moves is dependent on a couple of percentage point difference. It's also another video that I am postponing. So anyway, I get a splitter, I do it here. We're just gonna blitz through some moves. It's just very difficult to play with one meeple here, but the points of this, I'm trying to maybe create a counter field for the future and just drop some city caps. They make a move which I don't think it's actually the best. I think they needed to go here with a meeple to try and prevent me from drawing to something here, and I get a triple city tile, and I'm not sure if I played the best move here. I played the move which made the most sense to me. So I could, in theory, go here and get myself a monastery meeple back, and then start a new city and so on and so on. But because I will be starting this new city, as lucrative as it is, there are two connection platforms to it. I'm not at all that likely to finish it. So I decided that I really want to wait for either the one city cap that fits into the square, or for the road Dorito that fits into the square, where I would be finishing my monastery, meepling this new city, and then threatening to finish it with just one more city cap, and they would have only one platform for invasion, and that platform that they have would be restricted anyway. So I just decided to get myself a meeple back here. They get a road monastery whilst also enlarging their fields, which they control. It's quite painful for me. I get a scoring tile at the very least, but the side effect, the negative side effect, is that I'm helping their monastery. And then they go over here, score some points. They also preserve themselves a rather nasty option of going over here with a splitter, taking the advantage of the fact that this square here is blocked, and then they can get a regular city cap and finish their 6-point city without finishing my half. They can even drop a 9-point farmer and so on. That would be devastating. I have two meeples now, finally. I decide to use it as a patch of green. There are no good monastery spots, and I simply drop a farmer. It's really that straightforward. It's probably the best move, I guess. They start blocking my city, finally. I can't defend, but at the very least I can do this. I can prevent them from, drawing the splitter and getting the vanilla city cap, as I was telling you earlier, because now there's nothing that fits into the square anymore. There are no extenders anymore. There are no dividers anymore, and so on. But they have a better use for a splitter. They just block my stuff. I get a curve that I use to connect the farms. They decide to drop a 6-point farmer on the left. And with this, they have clearly demonstrated what kind of win condition they're going for. The main threat, the main way how yellow can come back into this game, and it's something that Nalaheim talked a lot during his stream. I think he noticed it pretty much before everybody else, but it's also something that I was thinking about during the entire game. I could go over here and drop a farmer and wait for a tile that goes there. Then I would complete my city, get myself a meeple back, and also complete a farmer invasion. But I figured that this was a little bit too early to do, because if I do that right now, there are 12 tiles remaining. Statistically, even if I get that dagger, it's going to be quite a wait. Although, by the way, I do have to hope for the dagger, because I don't really think there's a path back into this game for yellow without drawing the dagger. But if I do this, the reason I didn't want to do it right now was the fact that red has a win path where they simply concede the field and outscore me. So for example, they're threatening to get something like a butterfly over here for 7 points. And then they have a 9-point field. I'm going to have a 15-point field, and they still have a meeple extra to score. They're going to get a meeple back from here. So it's really kind of grim from yellow. So I figured that I need to score and then go for that special invasion, and I came up with this move. I'm not sure if it's best, but it ended up, gaining something. The idea is that I'm trying to set up a scoring opportunity for the city cap whilst also blocking my opponent's meeple. It got marginal value because now they're feeling the threat of their meeple getting blocked, so they're just simply getting themselves a meeple back for 4 points instead of going over here and getting themselves 7 points. But the fact that I didn't drop a farmer here with the city cap actually made it much more life much harder for me. You see, if I go here now and drop a farmer like this idea doesn't work anymore because of the geometry of this field. I can't drop a farmer just anywhere. I have to drop a farmer on specifically, let me zoom in. So I have to drop a farmer on specifically this square. If I don't, let's say if I go here, for example, and drop a farmer like this, my opponent can take any road tile and go here and drop a counter farmer on this piece of land. And so when I do get the dagger, I will be getting not only my farmer, but also my opponent's farmer into the field. So basically I need to wait until I get another tile like this so that I can go for my farming idea. So I'm not sure if I should have done this earlier. I felt that if I were to do it a bit too early, then my opponent can just outrun me. But maybe I had to do this regardless. Maybe I had to hope to draw the dagger tile early enough and then getting some scoring tiles and so on and so on. Well, anyway, I just pretend that I want to block their monastery. In fact, all I'm doing is I'm waiting for the correct tile. And this is the moment, well, I guess all of you know, or many of you know, as some of y'all have seen now how I'm stream already, there's one and only one correct move from Red's perspective here. And this is, of course, going over here and dropping an insurance farmer themselves. I still have winning chances after this, but this move is really devastating. Because now I can't even finish my city. Because if I finish my city, I lose the field, like then I'm losing points. So I guess I could finish my city, then score for the road, then re-invade the farm. Then I wouldn't even be invading the farm. I would be just equalizing the farm, whereas I need to win it. So I guess a path to victory for me is now to use this dagger tile here to score 4 points, get some more quick points, and then find a way to equalize the field through a road monastery perhaps. The reason why I have to do it explicitly through a road monastery is because if they get the road monastery, then they go over here and they get into the farm like this. And it's not something that's I can allow to happen, so I have to hope for both the dagger and the road monastery. I now set up some farming options. They get a straight line to prevent themselves from being blocked. I pretend that I want to go with the road monastery there, even though I want to do that in an entirely different place. They get a curve. I get a scoring tile now. They get themselves a ruin, and now the move that scores the best for me is not here. I can't afford to complete my city. I'm going at the top and dropping a farmer, hoping to get the last remaining road monastery for 1 in 3 chance. And it's actually a huge swing because they get the road monastery, and not only they deny me a field invasion, but they also invade the field themselves, and it's a 25-point swing because they deny me 12 and then they get 13 extra, because with the monastery they score 4, whereas with a different tile they would have scored just 3. But as we find out, it actually ends up not mattering because my win route was scoring even more quick points and then making that field connection. So it was really rough for yellow. But yeah, really difficult to think about like whether this move, whether with 12 tiles remaining, was the moment to gamble, and maybe it was, maybe it was. But then again, if I do gamble, if I do go over here early, my opponents can just ignore the field and outrun me. So probably in those positions, if red plays correctly, then yellow should be losing almost every time. Yeah, but then I also hope that yellow kind of wouldn't see this insurance idea, but of course, being rated over 800 for a reason, they saw that idea. Although they were thinking about it for like 2 minutes. Driving Nalerheim, who was streaming this, not quite crazy, but maybe if they thought for 1 more minute, we would have gotten there. So yeah, so anyway, so this is how they won game 4. Game 3 was their comeback route, and now this is game 5. That's all that remains. So they have the momentum. I was so close to winning the match. I lost game 3 by 1 point. I got destroyed in game 4, and now in game 5. Wait. What's in game 5? In game 5, at the very least, I get to start. yzemaze is saying, Otto would have definitely gone totally mental if Rabbit Rain would have done anything else, and rightfully so. So we exchange quick points. I start a city in, I think, the safest location. Then they do this. Then I decide to do this to continue my city for a variety of reasons. There's just really no better use for this tile, and I can get myself a triple Dorito pattern. That's basically the plan. Now, also note that if red were to go here for their highest scoring move, which I still think is their best option objectively, if they were to go for this move, or if they were to go for something like this, which is probably even better, then I am threatening to do something like this and start blocking their curve next to the monastery. But they're quite presciently did over this, and I'm wondering what, like, have they hacked my webcam or something? Like, how do they know the tile that I have in hand? Because not only did they choose to take 2 points instead of 3 and to slightly disrupt my city, but also they chose the orientation where the road does not stick into my city, so I can't even continue the city safely. And I mean, the answer, of course, is that their move makes a lot of like positional sense, but it sort of felt a little bit, you know, shady. So I paused for a minute. I put a piece of scotch tape over my webcam and did this. No, I didn't actually. I just started a new city. They made a brilliant move starting a new road like this. I think not many players find this. Most players rated below 700 do not find this at all. I think most players just go here, like 2 points, pressuring the city. It's not bad. But this road is just incredibly good because they're one tile away from securing themselves a 7-point monstrosity. I get the last road monastery, which is actually great for me, because now this square becomes a bit more vulnerable. And if I just put the monastery here maybe, or here maybe, I can in the future try and block the square or limit it towards the road monastery. But I don't do that. And the reason that I don't do that and just simply fill the square myself is because I want to take out the option of them getting one of the 4 roadless monasteries, which they succeed most of the time before I get to go over here. And now the position is decent. I get to equalize them. And I also get to control the road, or get to set up the equalization of the road. As you can see, they start a new city, and then I equalize the road, so all is well. They decide to take 2 quick points. But I don't think it's necessarily the best move. I mean, it makes sense. They are setting up the completion of their monastery without helping mine. They're scoring the most that they can. They're putting pressure on this square a little bit. So it move that makes all the sense in the world. As them, I would have probably preferred going here and starting to exert pressure on this meeple, whilst also building up their city. But they made this, can't really blame them for that, and I decided to go here, and for the first time in our 5 games, I was actually the first one to drop a farmer. It doesn't look like a very good farmer, but in fact, not only is it good, it's actually necessary for a variety of reasons. It scores only 3 points, but after a curve goes here, suddenly this field grows to at least 9 points and a boatload of green squares and becomes the main field in the game. So much so that if I get a curve soon enough to go here, then I will be dropping even a second farmer. In the event this gets separated with a crossroads, then this farmer can still grow a little bit as a result of these couple green squares. Maybe something here as well to bring this city in on the right. And at the very least, it's also sharing this field with this red city. So if this red city gets completed, I'm getting some extra and so on. So this farmer is really never bad. They decide to make a move which is utterly unexpected to me, and they just go for the field attack straight away. I'm not sure if I'm loving the idea of giving up a city cap like this. Maybe I'm a bit biased knowing what I have in hand. As them, I would have probably preferred something more simple. Like maybe starting a city on the right. You know what? Actually keeping the field small and starting a city on the right as red seems to be quite strong. Because from yellow's perspective, this city is a bit annoying to deal with. Like if I put a tile over here, where I try to shoulder off their hypothetical city, then suddenly my square of this city becomes even more vulnerable. When they drop a farmer, it makes sense. I, of course, clean off the city cap. I also need to do Carcassonne Reviewer. Yeah, I need to do this. Then they decided to start a new city whilst also restricting mine. Here, I thought for a while and really went for the only move, which is not bad. And it's just going for the second farmer. Ideally, I want to be drawing a curve here and getting in both of those farmers, but even with a crossroads here, this move is also just fine. And really, there's just simply no square on the board where this tile goes without inflicting some form of damage on me, so it just has to be there. They get quick points. And so do I. They decide to put some pressure on my city, but I get to defend immediately. They try invading the field, and I get to restrict their city. So all of these are quite natural moves. They get a second farmer in the field, and they're also threatening to block the square. That would be quite a disaster, because now that the field has grown a little bit, I really don't want a crossroads to go here. Moreover, in addition to a crossroads, what they could use, they could just get something like a Dorito tile, and instead of blocking the square, simply severely delay the completion of my monastery given that there are only 2 dagger tiles available. I once lost an arena game to Kithara like this, where they just blocked my road meeple. Not even blocked, they gave me a 75% chance of recovery, and then I waited for this for so long that they were able to do all kind of stuff with the meeple majority. So I went for this. I expanded my farm at the bottom, trying to prepare for the curve and unify all the fields. Also know that I could have gone over here with the Dorito, saving that square completely, leaving myself 1 curve. But the problem is, if I were to do that, then suddenly this square would become a bit blockable, actually really blockable, and I would just resent that a lot. And the reason for this move, which is only a partial protection of the square rather than a full protection of the square, is that if I do get restricted here, if I get a crossroads, then it's actually not that terrible for me, because my bottom farmer is still outscoring their 2-point city, which is actually quite difficult to develop, and I also have a shot at blocking or restricting their road. So this square is also a bit more sensitive. So I could have a meeple majority regardless, even if I get separated. But of course, ideally I get a curve and then I'm just happy. They make a move that unifies our 2 cities. The reason is that I was threatening to get a city plus road tile that would finish my city but also restrict their city almost completely. And now comes the quadruple road tile. A lot of Pottori is saying, is that a mistake or not? So what did I do wrong with it? It looks like a just normal move. In game 5... Is it really worth the 1 point extra for the quick points opportunity with the curve? Oh, I see. Okay, that's interesting actually. So I guess the move that you're suggesting is to go over here and take 2 points, which would also harass that square a little bit. And then if I do get a splitter tile to get myself a 10-point city and a meeple back, then red is less likely to continue his city. And in fact, red is just less likely to continue his city straight up if I get a crossroad plus crossroad sequence. Oh, that is actually quite interesting. So the reason for my move here was not to score 3 points. In fact, I mean, it was to score 3 points, but it was to start restricting this square. Because with this square, my opponent could potentially get something like a Dorito, leaving 2 daggers that fit here, and I would hate that. Or they could get a starting tile and restrict this towards a splitter. So if I manage to restrict this square, then I'm also protecting that square. Also, giving back a 3-point scoring opportunity is actually not such a big deal in this position. You see, because their city here is so bad, if they score these 3 points extra, I'm still in a very good position. Because if only I can get this done, I can then use my meeple majority to control the field. So these 3 points, just generally, quick points in this game matter much, much less than in a normal game. So that was my logic. But now, to be honest, this move I just didn't see. I was considering like a crazy move like this, leaving 4-point loops, but nah, not really. And also, I am, you know, like there are some scenarios where I get to pick this up. For example, if I get a road Dorito, I'm more likely to pick up this curve because they need road Doritos elsewhere. So it's not that bad to give these 3-point back, and I really like the idea of trying to restrict the square. So I like your suggestion too. I don't think my move was a mistake. And generally, as you can see, there's going to be many moments where leaving back scoring opportunities for my opponent turns out not to be a big deal. A lot of Pator is saying you also need a curve elsewhere. Yeah, that's a great point. And actually, I need the curve here, and it probably goes here before. So my opponent does meeple this a bit more often. But then again, I was thinking about this square mostly. And you're correct. They do get these 3 points here. And what do I do? Oh yeah, I go for the block at the bottom. I said that this city is difficult to complete, but it is not impossible to complete, not at all. And so given the fact that there are no horse tiles available, I'm trying to get something, what I drew right now, to go over here and limit the square towards a horse, thus blocking it completely. So much so that they realize that they're about to lose a meeple and they don't even bother. Like many players would have gone over here. They're just trying to cut their losses and score quick points at the top. And here, my first instinct was to going over here. But learning my lesson from game 2, which I almost lost as a result of playing too quickly, I decided that I could delay this block for a little bit longer, that this city was already dangerous enough. And I first needed to make the strategically important move of saving this square. And now there are 5 curves remaining, which translates to like a 98% chance of drawing the curve. So the fields will be united, the roads will be united, and I will be having a long-term meeple advantage just because this guy here is so bad. So this is a position where yellow has just a gigantic advantage. They get the monastery, and they eliminate the monastery spot, which honestly, I'm really happy that they did. Because I think if they just discard this monastery somewhere else, maybe here, I think I might have made the mistake of just going for the monastery for 5 points. And I'm really glad that I wasn't tempted to do so, just because in this position, having the extra meeple is so important. And these 9 points for the monastery really don't do that much for my winning chances. That's the thing. Like, the way you win these positions as yellow is you use your meeple to get a majority on the field, and the field is already big enough. And if my opponent scores 9 points for the monastery or whatever, like there isn't really a lot that red can do scoring-wise on this board that can prevent him from losing. So I just discard the monastery, although it is actually not quite a discard. I want to start restricting the square for a couple of reasons. So the scoring opportunity, which I mentioned, there were not many. There actually are some. If they get a double city cap, then they could score easy 10 points. They now go for this, and that's a great move, actually, because it sets up a bunch of interesting options. So first of all, if I do get a splitter, then I'm disincentivized from doing so because I finish myself a 10-point city, but I'm in no likelihood giving themselves back a bigger city. Then, if they're desperate enough, they could go over here, hoping for one of the 2 remaining cow tiles, and overrun a big completed city. That would be incredibly annoying to deal with. And I could limit this threat right now, but I actually don't like doing this because then I would be entering in a losing mini battle, and they could just keep building their city on the right. But maybe I should have even done that. Well, I guess if I do it myself a little bit too early, there are some ways how they could come back into this game. Maybe if they build up a big ruin for like 10 more points, and then end up scoring, maybe here for this city for 10 more points. Then I guess there are some scenarios how my field is not big enough to combat their mini battle plus the scoreboard lead. So I decided to keep my options open and went here instead. This is the moment where if they're desperate enough, they could actually go over here. I wonder if they should. I think the answer is no. I think it is a bit too early to be doing stuff like this. Instead, they want to prolong their city. And now, actually, it is in their interest to get a splitter tile. Because then they could get maybe a city cap first and a splitter tile later, and then they would end up with a bigger city than I. And also, there's still an option of getting a vanilla city cap and going over here with an extra meeple. Not something that I can deal with right now. I permanently block their meeple at the bottom, which secures the advantage that they have. They get the cow tile, and with that, I think they make their biggest mistake of the game. Not so much a mistake, but a miss, rather. The move that they had to play, pointed out by Otto in the stream actually, was going over here, breaking the city, and taking away the field connection platform. Because the point is, from Yellow's perspective, Yellow wins this game by getting his extra meeple on the field, and this is the best place to do so. Just any city tile goes here, I connect here with the curve, that's it. 18-point field, lovely stuff. Instead, they went here, which I think is a double mistake. Well, first of all, because it's a miss, because they really underestimated the severity of this threat. The second is that they're breaking their city a little bit, and I can understand the reason why they're making this move. They're trying to grow a big rune, and then it's going to work like a charm. But for them, it's also made sense to keep their options flexible. So what I would have preferred as Rabbit Rain, let's say even if this weren't here, maybe instead you keep the square open, maybe you just discard the tile somewhere here, and then you try and get yourself a city cap, and then you can make a decision. Either you can get a splitter, in which case Yellow gets a 10-point city, but Red gets an 18-point city, so that's a very nice win. Or maybe you can still go for this idea of a city cap plus the last remaining triple city, and then you just end up with a game-winning 32-pointer. So this move appears to be a bit too inflexible. It's just saying that there's only one way how I can come on top in this situation from Red's perspective. So they want to get a straight line, they want to block this square, they want to build themselves a big ruin. Well, I guess maybe if I get the splitter, I can go here and then they can suddenly finish the city with a couple of Doritos. But still, this move was much stronger. Now, I get, of course, an invasion tile. I find what I think is by far the best move of just getting myself the invasion. And as you can see, it leaves pretty healthy scoring opportunity for my opponent, but because it's my field, the expected value of this is positive, so they end up scoring 8 points for the city immediately. But it's not really 8 points, it's 5 points because they score 8 for the city and they give 3 for me. If I were to score, then I would get 11. And overall, it was a move with positive expected value to me. Just because the chances of them drawing this Dorito tile before me are actually not that bad. They're 55% or even a tad less, like 54, 55. It's really not that bad. And also after the city is completed, I get myself a scoring opportunity as well, and then suddenly I don't even have to draw these curves necessarily. I could even go here, 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 connect the fields like this. Then yes, I would lose my monastery meeple, but at least the main strategic goal of getting a farmer majority could even be achieved if the unthinkable 2% scenario where I don't draw a single curve happens. They get a monastery to protect their city from invasions. I complete the invasion on the field. Then they make a move which is not quite understandable to... Oh, no. they make a normal move. Yeah, they actually block the city and try to go for a ruin and get some scoring tiles. Then they make a move which is not entirely understandable to me. So when they did this, which brings me into the field, I guess if they are doing this, they're deciding that the 2% chance of them drawing all 5 curves is simply not good enough. They could, in theory, go here and just try to hope that they get all 5 curves, but it's not good enough from their perspective, and I understand. It's not a realistic plan to win the game. The reason for this move is simply pre-building some roads that going through their city. And you'll see that it will end up working out quite well. So for example, a crossroads plus a... No, not a crossroads, but a curve plus a butterfly yield them a 6-point road. And they really should get creative because they need scoring opportunities if they want to try and win this game without the field. So there's that. And I guess this move also restricts my farming option a little bit. Anyway, now comes another instructive moment. I own the field. So a normal move is just to go over here and drop city caps. And maybe this is not even such a bad move, but I decided not to do this because of the field geometry. If I were to go there, and we both maybe get these city caps and the field is expanded, then suddenly the field is much bigger and it is harder for me to control. Because even though I have the meeple majority, I still can lose this game theoretically if they just keep scoring, they develop their ruin on the right, and then towards the very, very end of the game, they drop their last meeple on the farm that equalize, I cannot reclaim the field, and then they win. So there's still an incentive for me to keep the field tight, but also, the field is already big enough. Once the field is connected, it's already 21 points. So it is going to be game decisive whether it gets bigger or not. So then, for the sake of preserving better field geometry, I just decided to dump these tiles further away from me. Then they get a lovely, lovely tile, and you're gonna see the strength of their move soon enough. I get some quick points. They continue this city. I decided to... Well, actually here, I think I could have gone... I think this move was maybe a little bit stronger, because this restricts some farming options, some road options, and so on. But instead I make a move which also makes some sense. It's going over here and restricting some scoring opportunities with the city cap. Now, they get this road, and now we can see the purpose of this move. It was pre-building this road through their city all along, and it's absolutely worth spending their last meeple. As a result, I don't get to score for the city, but that's okay. I could go here in theory, and this would take away some options from them, but I figured that since they're two regular crossroads still, I probably want to block this road in a bit of a better fashion, so I decided to simply drop a city cap on the left, and then maybe get a combo of city tiles that would successfully block this road. I'm not sure, maybe like the sequence of my last 3 moves was a little bit too shy, and it could be one of those cases where I'm trying to like preserve my lead very, very carefully, but as a result my opponent finds a way back into the game. I think it was still acceptable, but now Red gets themselves a real chance at winning this, because they get the splitter and they place it in the square which is shared between our 2 monasteries, but it's only them who get a meeple back, and suddenly they're threatening to get 10 points for the city. It is extremely unpleasant. And if they do get 10 points for the city, because they have the road and the ruin, now there are actually some scenarios where they can win without the field. And in order to prepare for exactly those scenarios, I dropped the monastery on the right to give myself a platform to invade the ruin towards the end of the game, just in case I have to. The ruin is worth 10 points, so it could turn into a game decisive feature, but they immediately cover it up. Now I have a scoring tile, which is super lovely for me. I could, of course, go here and score 6 points, but that would be a mistake because this move here scores 7 points. 4 for the city and 3 for the farm. It also makes sure to block this city, which was a 10-point threat for my opponent. It also prevents all kinds of field invasion on the right, and it also blocks this square as well. There's nothing that fits there anymore. No roads Doritos, no right-handed daggers, nor butterflies. They get a curve, and they use it in an interesting way. Since there are now only 3 curves remaining, they now figured that a scenario where they draw all 3 curves is suddenly not at all that realistic. It's probably around 10% at this point, and 10% is something that's worth going for. Then maybe towards the end of the game, if they get a curve, they can even block this square, and then suddenly I have 3 versus 1 majority on the left for an 18-point field, and they have their own field of 15 points, which they're controlling with just 1 meeple. So then this means that all of my field invasions were for nothing. Actually, no, these are 2 equal fields. Yes. No. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 15 points here, 15 points here. So unless the fields are unified, then these farmers are useless. So there is, I guess, some small chance of them going over here and then drawing all the available curves, in which case I never get to eat up their farmer on the right, and then I probably just lose because I can't score. So we're going for that small chance. There were some other options available. They could play around with the field geometry a little bit. For example, they could go over here, try to set up some sort of reinvasion opportunities. I get to score, of course. But I'm saying of course, but I had another move available to me which I didn't even consider, but now that I see it. So the move that I could have played was going over here, simply to block their road and not allow them a meeple back, because there's still 2 crossroads, and then if they get a crossroad, they can suddenly set up a field connection platform and so on. To be honest, I just didn't see that idea. But if I had seen that idea, let's say if they go here, if I do go here, the one big downside of this move is that it opens a juicy, juicy field reinvasion platform. Like this. So let's say if I go here, they get any road tile, drop a farmer, and they connect like this. And then it's now much harder for me to reinvade. Now at this point, from Rabbit Rain's perspective, I wonder if they should have just dropped their last farmer and have gone over here with the Dorito tile. From their perspective, there are still 3 straight lines, and if they invade, then there are no more re-invasion tiles, opportunities which aren't blockable. I guess I could still go here, but then this square is blockable from both sides. So maybe it was worth a try. They decided not to do it just yet. They're simply building up their city. Now I get a city cap, and I have a very, very interesting choice. So I could, first of all, simply go here and complete the field connection. Simply eat up Red's meeple on the right. the reason why it would be a good idea is, well, I'm not guaranteed to draw one of the 3 curves that fit there. And we need to eat up that farmer. But the reason why I didn't want to do that is because it's still, like, if... okay, that's actually super instructive. Okay, so if I go here, then this is me basically preparing for the worst case scenario where my opponent draws 3 curves. But in the worst case scenario where my opponent draws 3 curves, they just go here and then here. And I can't block because, well, I guess I could draw this. But anyway, this opens up like a bunch of field connection opportunities on the right, and I didn't want to do that. And I also figured that the probability of me drawing a curve is so high at this point. It has to be 90% already, maybe a little bit over, that I'm basically prepared to lose 10% of the time if I don't draw it. Also, I can actually do this a little bit later because there's still one of these guys remaining. Maybe I should have gone over here, but instead I made a different move, which I think makes a lot of sense in this position. And it's this one. And actually, I wonder if I should have dropped a farmer there even. Maybe I should... You know what? Maybe I should have dropped a farmer there. That would have been neat. Yeah, with a because with a so the point of this move is I'm trying to prevent field connections, and I'm also trying to prevent them from getting a crossroads and getting a meeple back. They now get to prolong their road. Yeah, they now get to prolong their road. And now I just saw something in the chat. Utz is saying just turn the curve into their city. City killed, road killed, no invasion platform created. That's actually brilliant. Wow. So with this move, a couple moves early, you go over here with the city cap pointing down. Oh, that would have been just the kill right there. Because then at that point in the game, there are no city plus road tile available. So this square is completely blocked and the field is completely sealed. Wow. That is just amazing. Yep, that was definitely the way to go. So as you can see, not necessarily precise, but we're both making imprecisions here. It also happens to be the 5th game of the match. Yeah, really should really try and learn all this stuff before the next semifinals. Now here I make a rather important move. I go over here because I know that there's a city cap remaining, which, by the way, they would have defo used somewhere here trying to connect to the field. So I made sure to block the field connection opportunity. So the only one field connection that remains is going over is this one. Well, I guess there's also this one to the outside of a curve, but anyway, it's just this area. And now Rabbit Rain is about to commit a fatal mistake, but one this, of course, which allows a lot of content towards the end of the game. Now, what should you do with this city cap? My first instinct is that you should do something regarding the field geometry. Because you should just, from Red's perspective, you should just set up as many field invasions platforms as possible, just trying to prepare and drop that equalization farmer toward the end of the game. And now Anaheim in his stream suggested a rather lovely move going over here. And then maybe going for something like a crossroads plus straight line sequence. Or at the very least forcing me to be distracted and block that square whilst they also still have the option of connecting at the bottom. But instead, they just went for one city point. Now, one of the reasons why this is a mistake, is because in this position, 1 point does not do anything for your win probability. It does not do anything at all for their win probability. And another reason we will see a little bit later. So here I have a variety of moves available. I could just score 3 points. But then again, from my perspective, I realized that 3 points don't do anything for my win probability, because just the field is so big that it's really about the field geometry. I need to make a move that favors field geometry. I don't know. I could do, for example, something like this. I don't know, maybe try and connect to the road. That's actually not impossible necessarily, or maybe trying to drop yet another farmer, or maybe trying to go here and like restrict some options, not allowing them to drop a farmer like this. But if I do that, then they can drop a farmer over here. So there are many issues with this. And I found the move which I think is the best move in this position. So I went over here and dropped a farmer. There are two ideas behind this move. Well, one is simply to take away this field connection platform, because the idea is that I don't necessarily have to invade with that farmer. I just need to make sure that my opponent does not drop a farmer there himself. And then there are also some scenarios where my opponent maybe invades through the bottom, and then I get to invade here, and then... So basically there's some scenarios where they do successfully invade, and then I need this farmer to actually re-invade. So the point is I take out what's probably the best invasion spot, and I also give myself some marginal chances of getting a fourth meeple into the field. And this move also does one more thing that we will find out a couple of moves later. Rabbit Rain now plays a move which is very natural, but I don't think it is the best. Well, no, actually it's quite fine. So the play move which goes here. They decided to do this simply to block my farmer and to set up some field connection opportunities for themselves. I finally get myself a curve. I, of course, connect all the fields. I finally eat up that red meeple, so I get myself a majority on a 21-point field. Oh, 24-point field, actually. And at this point, there isn't actually anything that Rabbit Rain can do. Or is there? So what they're now planned to do, they know that the remaining tiles from their perspective are curve, curve, and the quadruple city tile. So they can hope to try and invade through a curve in one of the several possible ways. Maybe going like this, and then trying to draw a curve, or maybe going like this. There are several options, right? So this is the one that I saw. But then if they do that, then yellow can draw a curve and simply block this invasion. So they have to hope that yellow doesn't get a curve. They have to hope that yellow has the quadruple city tile in hand, and then yellow can't do anything about this invasion, and then red invades. And yellow just happens to have a quadruple city tile in hand, so they go for the invasion. And it seems that yellow was going to lose this game because they can't stop this invasion, but the quadruple city tile disappears from our hands, and that's because there's no legal place for it on the board. So the quadruple city tile has been discarded, and yellow draws another tile. And both of the remaining tiles happen to be curves. So it's quite easy to find the move here. I just need to block the invasion and drop a farmer, and there's nothing that they can do. They can, of course, invade my 6-point farm, but the big farm is impenetrable. And this brings us back to this move. So the purpose of invading over here was not just invading the farm, but also covering up this square, making sure that in case yellow draws the fateful quadruple city tile, yellow cannot place it over here. And so yellow is forced to discard it and get themselves and draw a better tile instead. And this is also the reason why this tile were a mistake over here. By covering up his own city, Rabbit Rain denied himself this opportunity. So if only they left their city alone, let's say they would have just discarded, they would have just put this city cap somewhere here. Then, if yellow were to draw the quadruple city tile, yellow would actually lose because yellow would be forced to place it into their city. But because the two last remaining legal squares on the board where a quadruple city tile could be placed were taken away, first of all, mistakenly by red, and then on purpose by yellow, then after these fields were completed, yellow had the guaranteed win. Because no matter what, there are no city tiles remaining. Like after this position, whoever draws the quadruple city tile is going to discard it. And so there are going to be only road tiles remaining in the equation, which means that yellow will always have time to react to any field threats below, either by blocking or dropping a counter farmer or both. Rabbit Rain makes his best move. And as you can see, they get a lot of points from their ruin and they get a lot of points from their road, but that early blocked city, which ended up scoring just 5 points, that lost meeple made up all the difference in the world because yellow ended up with a 24-point farm in the center and won the game with 12 points and the match 3-2. This also brings us to moves like this, over here, and over here. Yellow actually ended up giving red a lot of quick points, like this 8-point city was scored by red, this 3-point road was scored by red. But in positions like this, quick points don't matter nowhere near as much as they do in other types of positions with more meeples to play with. Just because the field geometry is what's decisive here. Larpator is saying, funny how Rabbit drew 9 shielded tiles, but did not manage to finish any city with a shield. Yeah, that's actually quite interesting. In fact, all the shielded tiles on the board were placed there by Rabbit Rain. An incredibly rare occurrence. By the way, also, this is what gave him so many chances, because if you get a lot of shielded tiles and you place them into the ruin, so, for example, 2 shielded tiles in a ruin is the equivalent of 2 city caps in not a ruin or a city. So this is a way to score really powerfully without a meeple here, and really not all that much that yellow could have done about it. So yeah, very, very tough, tight games. Definitely makes me think about Carcassonne a lot differently, because fields ended up mattering much more in all 5 games than they typically do in Carcassonne games at this level. Certainly something to think about. Anyway, well, this concludes our analysis for today. So what was planned as one of the shortest stream of the week ended up as one of the longest. And I'm really glad I did this, as I felt really, really good after this, especially given the fact that I did make some mistakes in some of the games as well, and won regardless. And even that one, even though the finish was quite pleasant to make with a discarded CCCC tile and everything, as you can see, yellow could have played even more optimally here, so still room for improvement for everybody. Alrighty, so then no streams scheduled for the weekend, but definitely a piece of content is coming out on Saturday or on Sunday. Then Monday and Tuesday you can watch auto streams of the 2 semifinals. And then after that, I really plan to stream something on March 8th or March 9th, which could be either a game analysis or Carcassonne against subscribers or Azul against subscribers or both. So stay tuned for that. Utmat is saying that 33% was the win chance of yellow in game 2 with that invasion with the butterfly tile. Yeah, that sounds a bit closer to it, but very curious to see the more detailed math. In any case, happy that I drew the tiles I did. And now we're wrapping up. Make sure to meet the like button before you leave. Makes the difference for the algorithm. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.